What is up, guys? This is Mason Steel. Welcome to the second part in a three-part series where I go over all the Knights of the Frozen Throne cards. So we're going to review the cards both on strength and on design, and I'll put the metric I'm going to use on the screen right here. I'm not going to go over all the different ratings. I won't go over the ratings of the cards as I go through them. I'm going to sort of discuss the cards while I show the rating on the screen. First card I haven't reviewed, Ultimate Infestation. This 10 mana card pretty much does everything. Let's take a look. Deal 5 damage, draw 5 cards, gain 5 armor, and summon a 5/5 ghoul. So if you just add all that up, you get like a 20 mana worth of stuff. So is that enough on 10 mana to let you survive? I think it is. I think you kind of have enough of a Firelands Portal, 5 damage, summon a 5/5, and then that gain 5 armor I think is where it's really key, right? That extra armor gives you enough sort of leverage to stay in the game on 10 mana. Drawing 5 cards is the reward. This would be a 5-star card, I think, but because of my own limitations of the rating, it can't be a 5-star card because it can't go into every deck. No 10 mana card goes into every Druid deck. So maybe it should be a 4.5 star, but right now it's going to be a 4-star strength card. I think this is going to see a lot of play. I think you're going to throw Medivh into Druid with a couple of copies of these and just get there, because this is almost as powerful as sort of doing the Jade thing, right? If you get Medivh, you cast a couple of these, you're going to have some 10 drops and a million cards. Like, it's all value. Alright, moving on. Web Weave, 5 mana, summon 2 poisonous spiders. So I don't think this does enough. They're too AoEable. You like really need taunts to set this up. So you can't. I don't think you can play this ever in constructed. In arena, it's probably pretty good, right? It's probably decent in arena, but maybe even not. Like, you're gonna get blown out by some situations. You know, consecration, stuff like that. All the shaman AoEs. Can't play this in constructed. I don't think it's very good. Moving on, Crypt Lord, 3 mana, 1/6 taunt. Not much to say here. I think this guy gets overclassed by the Stone Hill Defender from the previous set. Not going to talk too much about this. I don't think you ever really want this instead of Stone Hill Defender. And I don't think you want more than 3 sort of Stone Hill Defender cards at that mana slot, right? Alright, moving on. Alright, we got Corpse Widow. This 5 mana, 4/6 sort of competes with the other 5 mana beast, the 4/7 taunt when you have 2 creatures. Your Death Rattle cards cost 2 less. So the taunt one is much better than this. So this Death Rattle reducing really has to do work for you to put this in your deck. We don't know all the Death Rattle cards, and because of that, you kind of have to reserve judgment on it. It'll definitely be a role player card at the very least, right? Because if you have enough Death Rattles in your deck, this thing is pretty crazy. So definitely a role player card. Could move up on the rankings when we see more of the set, right? Alright, moving on. We got Stitched Tracker, 3 mana, 2/2. It's not a beast, very important to note, not a beast. And that could be good, right? You kind of have a lot of recurring beast synergies going in Hunter right now. So, discover a copy of a minion in your deck. It's important that it says copy. It doesn't take the card from your deck, so if you live the dream, you can get 4 high mains at least out of your deck, right? Death was 2 mana, and it triggered all your Death Rattles. Going from 2 to 1 is very important, and I think Play Dead might actually be better than Feign Death in a funny sort of way, just because of the 1 mana flexibility. Alright, so I think Play Dead actually is better than Feign Death. The Feign Death didn't see really play outside of niche fun decks, but I think Play Dead might be a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and say Play Dead's a role player, and I'm going to say Stitch Tracker is definitely a role player. Alright, moving on to Mage. We got Glacial Mysteries. So if you wanted to play Secret Challenger Mage, now you can. For 8 mana, you can put all the secrets from your deck onto the battlefield. Now you are capped at, is it 5 or 6 secrets? So you can't actually have all the secrets, but you can have a lot. Now, the problem with this card is just sort of the way Mage secrets line up, right? A couple of them are totally defensive. They don't have any impact on the board immediately. Ice Block and Ice Barrier. Maybe that's what you want, but I don't think so. A couple of them they get played around the same way, right? Mirror Entity and Potion of Polymorph. You just play a bad creature or a small creature, and you sort of hit 2 for 1 there. Vaporize, very easy to play around. So the problem with this is that the Mage secrets, while very playable because of the different ways to cheat them into play, getting them all at once, I don't think is something you want to be doing. We haven't seen all the Mage cards, or we have actually seen all the Mage cards. So the new Secret Frozen clone, which I'll get to in a bit, again, it's one of those cards like Mere Entity where you can play around it the same way. So I don't think this card sees play, but it's a very cool card. Next card is called Smacrium. Copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. So another copy card in Mage. Usually you have to pay 4 for this effect. This is a 3-mana card, and you don't have to sort of protect a creature, right? You can just sort of play this whenever you want. Now, it might be the end of the game, and the only card you have left is Sindragosa, and so you get some super value. So that alone, I think you have to pay attention to this card. The fact that you can sculpt your hand to where you get a huge thing, a huge, maybe powerful Battlecry, or just super value thing like Sindragosa. I think this card is something to watch out for. I do think it is constructed playable. So moving on, we're down to the secret I was talking about, Frozen Clone. This is the sort of amalgamation of Mere Entity and Duplicate. I do think because both those secrets see play, this will see play as well. Duplicate has gone to Wild, but a very powerful card in Wild, and a very playable card when it was in Standard. And because of that, I do think this sees play just because of the ways to cheat secrets into play in Mage. They're not always 3 mana, and even when it is 3 mana, this is a pretty good deal, right? Breath of Sindragosa, 1 mana. Got to pay attention to that whenever something is 1 mana. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion and freeze it. So this could be good in the early game. It could just do what you want. It could kill some 3/2s. Problem is, if someone plays a 3/2 and a 1/1, then you might be paying 1 mana to kill a 1/1. Not good. Not good ever. If the random freeze a minion is powerful, which it appears to be in Shaman, in Mage, not so much, right? Like you have the card, the 3/4 that draws a card when something's frozen. So maybe that sort of interaction is powerful enough, but I don't think so. I don't think there's enough spots in your deck to play this card. Maybe in a Kazakus deck, it's something to think about. So moving on, we're into Paladin now. So we get another sort of redemption card. It's called Desperate Stand. Give a minion Death Rattle. Return this to life with 1 health. So it's sort of redemption that can be silenced, right? And it's sort of a redemption that it's semi-harder to play around, right? The problem with redemption has always been Paladin hero power or the 1/1s in general. A lot of ways to make 1/1s in Paladin. So this sort of gets around that by targeting your redemption. Very weak to silence. So maybe silence makes a big comeback. Now this of course fits into the deck I talked about in the last video, where you just try to get as many Tyrians as you can through Howling Commander and Redemption and Getaway Kodo and all the like, right? So the idea is you play 2 Howling Commanders, which say Battlecry, draw Divine Shield minion from your deck. And your deck will only have Tyrion and 2 Howling Commanders. So eventually you're going to get Tyrion, and then you just set up, these Divine Stands, these Redemptions, the Getaway Kodos, all at the same time, and just try to play Tyrion every chance you can, and then maybe you play N'Zoth as sort of a way to get a board full of Tyrions. Now, is this deck gonna be good? I mean, it's getting there, right? We're getting more and more things for it. I'm definitely gonna try it. So maybe you need a couple more big creatures to hit with Redemption. Divine Shield works really well. Stuff like Sunwalker. The Howling Commander might not always get Tyrion, right? So the more Divine Shield minions you put in the deck to combo with these Redemptions and Desperate Stands, you water down that, but maybe that's still powerful enough. So it's very something to think about here. The 1 mana Righteous Protector. I think this is actually a 5-star card. I think you play this in every Paladin deck no matter what. It's just super powerful, right? It works in the early game like an Argent Squire. It works in the late game like an annoying mini bot. Like, this is just super pushed. It's super good with Sunkeeper Terram, right? You play these guys, you play the 1 mana, make 2 guys, and all of a sudden your Terram is just always super relevant, right? Not just a board clear, but a super buff card. If you have not crafted Sunkeeper Terram yet, you're gonna need to go ahead and craft him if you want to play Paladin. This thing is you're gonna see a lot of this card. I think it goes in every single Paladin deck, and I do think it gets the 5-star rating. Shadow Reaper Anduin. Battlecry. Destroy all minions with 5 or more attack. Now, you've got to pay attention. This hits both players, but it's not the worst thing in the world if you kill more of theirs than yours. You're going to get 5 armor. Now, what do you get? So the hero power is called Void Form, so it's very much like Shadow Form. It reads hero power, deal 2 damage. However, after you play a card, you refresh it. So there is sort of an infinite combo with this. What you need to do is at some point draw Radiant Elemental from your deck, cast Raza, unlock the 0 mana hero power, and then once you cast this Death Knight card, you have both Radiant Elementals on the field, you cast Shadow Visions, and you get another Shadow Visions. You just make sure the Shadow Visions won't sputter out. You make sure you always chain into more Shadow Visions, and you get infinite damage. So that's pretty cool, something to watch out for. Moving on in Priest, we have the other Priest legendary. It's called Archbishop Benedictus. 7 mana, 4/6. So the Curator stats on this body, not like the worst thing in the world. Does not have taunt, which is very relevant. Part of the reason that Curator saw so much play is that the body was actually very relevant. 7 mana, 4/6 taunt, not something you can ignore. So the Battlecry, shuffle a copy of your opponent's deck into your deck. Holy cow. So you cast this and you will not lose fatigue, right? Even against Milrow, probably. Very cool card. Can you honestly expect to play this and win with it? I don't know. Like, maybe you just play all the mill stuff with like Cold Light Oracle, but then you don't have stuff like Naturalize and Gang Up and stuff that other classes sort of already have access to. So you can definitely try to play for a fatigue game with this card. Is that better than fatigue from other classes? I can't say. I don't think so. A very fun card, but I don't think you can. This is realistically playable. Not that you should not try to play this. This is a very fun card, and I recommend everybody play it. But is it sort of what you want to win with on the ladder? I don't think so at all. Moving on, 9 mana, 4/8 taunt lifesteal, obsidian statue, and it's Death Rattle, destroy a random enemy minion. So a lot of stuff going on here. The biggest problem I have is the 9 mana is so debilitating. It's hard to get to 9, and when you get to 9, you really want this to do something powerful. The problem is the 8 toughness. So you kind of wanted more than 8 toughness, because I think you can realistically gain 8 life from this. But I think it needed to just have more toughness, so that way more things have to sort of crash into it to take it down. You get more than 8 health. Like 8 health is a lot, but like 12 health, 16 health, like now you're really talking. Obviously this dies to removal. It's hard to kill it though, but it does die to removal. So you get the Death Rattle, destroy a random minion at random. It's not the best thing in the world. So a lot of things going on with it. I think it just needed more toughness, or it just needed to cost 8, right? Like, do you ever play this over the dragon card, the 8 mana 4/8 taunt, AoE? Like, doesn't that kind of do what this wants better at lower cost? I think it does, and it has a dragon tag. So yeah, I don't think you play this, but again, a very fun card. So definitely try it, but I don't think it is playable. Moving on to another card that is not playable, 6 mana, Embrace Darkness. So we got another mind control effect here. Choose an enemy minion at the start of your turn. Gain control of it. So a lot of work to actually get this stupid minion to your side, and it has the mind control penalty going on. I think Blizzard sort of upped the cost of this. This could easily cost like 3 mana, I think. Realistically, about 3 mana. But it has the mind control penalty because losing your creature and them gaining it is sort of the feels bad moment. So they don't like that. That's why mind control originally got nerfed from 8 mana to 10. At 8 mana, it was kind of balanced. They put it at 10 because of the feels bad of the whole situation. So this is not playable at 6. It's not a good card. Moving on to another 6 mana spell, Essence Shadow. I do think this card is very good. Summon a 5/5 copy of a random minion in your deck. Now, of course, the quest is still around, the Death Rattle quest, so you're gonna have plenty of nice little Death Rattle things going on with this. 6 mana 5/5, very reasonable stats. Any sort of Death Rattle you get, any sort of draw card, any sort of create a couple, tokens, any sort of, who knows, right? It doesn't really have to do a lot to all it has to be really worth is sort of 1 or 2 mana, and you have a very powerful card, right? This does work with the Priest quest. The Priest quest does not care if you play a minion or summon a minion. So, yeah, no matter how this is worded, it will work with the quest. So this card's very good. In Wild, there's even crazier stuff going on. You can get Sylvanas and Karen and stuff like that. Well, Karen's actually Karen's in the basic set, so you can get Karen standard with this. So very powerful. So it's like another Karen, right? It's a bigger Karen, the 5/5 instead of the 4/5. Being a 5/5 over a 4/5 is very important, right? So it kind of looks like a worse Karen on the surface, but it's not, because 5/5 is much better than 4/5. So very strong card. Might even be better than Karen in general, right? Alright, moving on. Devour Mine. Copy 3 cards in your opponent's deck and add them to your hand. So this obviously competes with Thoughtseize. Do you play this or Thoughtseize? I think this actually gets run more than Thoughtseize, in the same sort of vein like of Druid. Like, would Druid run Arcane Intellect, or would they run Nourish? I guess Nourish has the ramp potential, so maybe that's why Nourish would be the choice anyway. But maybe this is interesting. Interesting to think about where you play this over Thoughtseize. I don't think you have room to play all like 2 copies of each. Maybe you play 1 of each, right? So sometimes on turn 3 you can just Thoughtseize, and then sometimes you have the mana for Devour Mine. So very interesting. Yeah, so that's sort of what's going on. I think in sort of Raza lists, you're gonna play 1 copy of each if you want them. So that's where this is gonna fit in, I think, the most. Do you just play this in every priest list? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I don't think so. But this is very playable. All right, moving on. Now, Acolyte of Agony, 3 mana, 3/3 lifesteal. Very disappointed that this is not actually just a neutral card. Like, I would love to see this be neutral, so classes like Warlock and Rogue can just have a nice little body and have a reoccurring heal effect. If you get the board, you can play this guy and get some life gain. So it's in Priest. So it's a fine 3-drop, but the problem is, like, it's competing against other powerful 3s, right? There's so many powerful 3s in Priest right now. So it's kind of a missed opportunity, I think, right? This would be awesome as a neutral, sort of be the champion of lifesteal in the set, right? There's a lifesteal theme going on, but if you don't have a neutral lifesteal like this, it's just kind of like on the backseat. All right, moving on. 2 mana, 2/2 Shadow Ascendant. At the end of your turn, give a random friendly minion +1/+1. So how do you use this? Well, it's obviously going to work with Cleric, right? You play the Cleric on 1/3. You play this, and at the end of the turn, you have a 2/4. Unfortunate that you can't attack with the 2/4 on turn 2, right? So if you play a 1/3, they play a 3/2. I guess it kind of works because you protect your Cleric against the 3/2, and you sort of challenge their, like, they're in an awkward situation where what do? They attack the Cleric, but then they could ping, right? So in ping classes, it doesn't kind of work out against 3/2s. In non-ping classes, it's pretty damn good. Anytime you can buff your Cleric even a little bit, it's very powerful because it just opens up more opportunities to heal it. So this opens up some sort of zoo strategies in Priest. They sort of need maybe another 1-drop. Maybe they're playing Argent Squire. Now that's pretty powerful. Turn 1 you play Argent Squire. Turn 2 you get a mini bot, right? And your opponent can't really stop you from getting it unless they sort of coin hero power or they are randomly playing Elven Archer. So this is very interesting. I do think this actually, it's definitely a role player, right? Like, you definitely have to build your deck. You definitely have to put Argent Squires in your deck. But that synergy alone, and Firefly. So what do you do with Firefly? You play a Firefly turn 1. Turn 2 you play this. You have a 2/3. It's okay. It's very interesting. Now it's a snowbally card because it keeps happening. So unlike the Imp, from Warlock, getting that attack is very important as well. So I do think this card sees play in some form or the other. Alright, moving on to Rogue. 9 mana. Battlecry, gain stealth until your next turn. So you kind of become immune. So it's kind of like an Ice Block, except versus like random AoEs and stuff. Like, who knows how do you get hit when you have stealth? Well, spells can't hit you, creatures can't hit you, so it needs to be something like Leper Gnome and stuff like that. Like all the Warlock spells, Hellfire and stuff like that, right? They'll still work. And I think when you get hit, you actually lose stealth. So that's something interesting to consider. If there's ways in the set to sort of hit the opponent, then it's not sort of an Ice Block. It's very close to an Ice Block though, right? So you gotta think of it like an Ice Block. Get a little bit of armor, not bad. I was kind of hoping that the Rogue Death Knight card was gonna get even more armor. So the hero power you get is called Death's Shadow. It is a passive hero power, so it does not cost any mana. You just get it. And what it is during your turn, add a shadow reflection to your hand. And what that does is each time you play a card, transform this into a copy of it. Now, the copy is a copy. It's not going to cost 0, which I think it needed to cost 0 for this card to be really cool. The fact that it only works on cards that cost 5 or less, I think is kind of limiting, and I think it would have been really cool if this just gave you like a 0 mana copy of stuff. So you really go off, give you really big reason to play this hero power, this Death Knight card. But this is one of those cards that's impossible to sort of judge, because it's just something we haven't seen before, right? I guess the closest thing to it is sort of Magnus, right? Like Magnus kind of does the same thing. Every time you draw, you get a copy. This is every time you play, this becomes a copy in your hand. Now the next turn you lose. Well, you don't lose it, but then whenever you play a card, like you lose the opportunity to play the previous cards. So you kind of need cards that basically cost 5, so you can go 5 and 5 and just keep doing 5, 5, and 5, 5 the whole game. So you know, I don't know. It doesn't seem great. It would have been really cool if this just cost 0, so you just get free copies and stuff like that. But very cool card. Definitely something to try. I don't think is good enough. I'm gonna say it's not good enough to see play. But maybe that's silly because there's just so many cards in the game, so many sort of things you can do that I haven't thought about. So very cool card in the very least. Very much a WoW card. But I would just wish if it was. I just wish it was pushed. Like you still have to draw. You still have to play or draw a card. Like so, making stuff free doesn't necessarily automatically make stuff broken because you still have to have it. But maybe there's something I'm not thinking about where it's just busted. So we have the other legendary Lillian Voss. It's a 4-mana Yeti Battlecry. Replace spells in your hand with random spells. So you just get new ones. So obviously the combo with this is the Razor Petals, right? You just get those crappy little spells and get new ones. It is worth noting that with Malygos, those petals are actually very good, and that is a way to win in Miracle Rogue with Malygos. So maybe you don't always want to replace spells, but if you sort of make a Razor Petal deck, this is another way to go about it. I don't think you play this in Constructed just because Rogue has better things to do. Like they sort of want all their coins and petals and stuff for auctioneer turns and stuff like that. Maybe with the new neutral card that's on the horizon, that sort of miracle style gets pushed out of the meta. That's something to think about. Maybe they printed this as a sort of way to change it up for Rogue. Rogue has had sort of the same deck for quite a while, right? That miracle deck has kind of been the same thing for a couple years now. So maybe they were scared of the neutral card in Rogue, and so they put this in to sort of give Rogue different opportunities. Who knows? 4-mana Runeforge Haunter, 5/3. During your turn, your weapon doesn't lose durability. So there's 2 cards that curve right into this. The first is Envenom Weapon at 3 mana, and the second is the very powerful 3-mana Shadow Blade. I think Shadow Blade is really good. I think it's going to fit into Rogue all over the place. But this does combo with that. This seems to be more of an arena thing to do, and it's a very powerful thing to do in arena. But it could, I mean, if you get a Shadow Blade every turn, you know, even when you start taking damage, because the Shadow Blade only blocks the damage your first turn, that's pretty powerful. Like, just having a Shadow Blade active the whole game. This guy is very vulnerable to anything, so in arena, I think this is very strong. In Constructed, it could be a role player. Moving on, 2 mana Roll the Bones, draw a card. If it is a Death Rattle, cast this again. So it kind of has the opportunity to just keep going, right? Like you could actually just draw 4 or 5 cards with this if your deck has enough Death Rattles in it. So very cool card. At the very worst, it is a spell that for 2 that cycles itself. At the very worst, you draw a card. So at that point, it is playable. It can get 2 to 3 to 4, even more cards if you get lucky enough. Now, is there going to be enough Death Rattles in Standard for this to be good? I don't think so, but in Wild, you definitely got to pay attention because you could literally make your whole, whole deck Death Rattle in Wild. So, what if you just played all Death Rattle cards and 2 Roll the Bones, and then you can just always draw your hand, right? I mean, that's something to look at. Even in Standard, maybe that's good enough. I don't know though. Just some. So yeah, so very powerful card for sure, and so it will see play in some form or another. Moving on to different class, we got Shaman. We got the Thrall Death Seer Death Knight card, 5 mana. So this is the cheapest Death Knight card yet, right? 5 mana is the cheapest one, and there is a reason for it to be 5, which we'll see in a sec here. Battlecry: transform your minions into random ones that cost 2 or more. So you get double evolve. You get 5 armor. So if we assume the 5 armor costs 2 mana, you're getting double evolve for 3, which is pretty good. Evolve at 1 is kind of already undercosted, so double evolve for 3 I think is a good deal. Now this, of course, combos, and I think unfortunately combos with Doppelganger. So we're not, I mean, Doppelganger Evolve is not going anywhere, guys. This is going to be what Shaman will be doing for the next couple years here. Playing Doppelganger, or at least until April, right, when the rotation happens. Or I guess I don't even know when the rotation of Evolve is, or Doppelgangsters. But as long as Doppelgangster and Evolve are in the format, you're going to be seeing Shaman do that. I don't really like that because it's just too easy. Like, it's just 2 cards to sort of almost win the game on the spot. Like, at 6 mana, they can just play those two cards together, and unless you're, you know, playing Quality Consecration or something like that, you kind of just lose. So I don't really like that it combos with Doppelgangsters. Would have been cooler if it sort of niched its way, it niched its own sort of thing. But you put the Doppelgangsters in your deck, you put Evolves in your deck, you put this in your deck, and you go on your way, and you play all the same cards that we've been seeing Shaman play, except now they have even more ways to sort of break your back. So, oh well. Moving on. We got Drunkrek Defender, 3 mana, 2/8 taunt. So it's got the Dreadlord stats. Overload 3. Now, Overload 3 is not something you can ignore at any point in the game. So on turn, like, you play this turn 3 or turn 4, you don't have a turn 4. Even if you play this later in the game to try to get tempo, you will be punished for that Overload 3, right? Everyone knows the turn after Earth Elemental is pretty bad in general. You do it because of how strong Earth Elemental is, right? The only combo I see with this card that makes me think about it is with the 5 mana dragon. So on turn 8, you play this, you play the dragon. The dragon buffs this to a 5/8 taunt, and you got a 5/5 dragon that is hiding behind this that every turn buffs something else. So if you can get that ball rolling, that's pretty powerful, right? I might try that. That seems cool. But other than that, this card's pretty poopy, right? Alright, Murloc Burlock. 2 mana, 2/2 Murloc. Battlecry: freeze an enemy. Now, this obviously has a home just in the Murloc deck, and it obviously has a home in the freeze deck if that becomes a thing. So this card is playable, at least as a role player. Now, is this going to be so powerful that it fits into sort of other Shaman decks, just having a 2/2 for 2 that also freezes? I don't think so. Shaman, everyone already had access to Glacial Shard, and people were wondering if Glacial Shard was just good enough to be run sort of in every deck, and that didn't end up happening. So I think you don't run this card unless you're specifically, 1, looking for Murlocs, or 2, looking for freezes. If you're looking for either of those, it very much fits into either of those decks. So very playable card. Moving on to Ice Fishing, another Murloc card. 2 mana, draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. So in the Quest deck, you sort of don't really need this, I don't think. Every time I played against the Quest Murloc deck, they complete their quest, right? It's just going to happen. So I don't think you need this in that deck. This is very powerful, however, in the Finja style deck where you play the Water Pack. You draw 2 Murlocs. They're all war leaders, they're all warriors, and they're Finja, those 5 cards. So you play 1 copy of this and you sort of guarantee you get a powerful sort of combo. Because if you have a war leader and a warrior, you play them both in the same turn, you get a 4 power charge. You play 2 war leaders on the same turn, for 6 mana you get 2 5/4s. Or you just get 2 warriors, you know, at least it can kind of serve as 2 removal cards. Or you get Finja, and then sort of you go off. So anytime you can search for Finja with a water package, you really have to pay attention to that. I don't think you can run 2 Ice Fishings with a water package, because at that point you run the risk of once you get Finja, once Finja activates, this becomes a dead card. Maybe there's another Murloc that's good enough to add into the Finja package. Maybe the freezing guy is good enough. But why the freezing package is so powerful is those Finja turns where you activate Finja, you get the immediate war leader. Maybe Finja survives lethal damage because of the buff it gets immediately, and then you get those charging guys that are buffed from the war leader possibly immediately. So it's hard to break up the Finja package with more stuff, kind of dilute it, but this might be a reason why you would, right? So this is very cool, very playable card for sure. So we're moving on to Warlock here. Treachery, 3 mana, choose a friendly minion and give it to your opponent. So the really only thing you can do with this is Doomsayer, right? Those two combo together to clear the board. Other than that though, what are you doing with this? Maybe you play 2 Doomsayers, 1 Treachery. So, you know, definitely has opportunities in the future. There's Taking Abomination, but I don't know, man. Like, I think Doomsayer is just way cleaner. Maybe you play Doomsayers and Taking Abominations. Taking Abominations is pretty big, right? So maybe you find a way to sort of attack with the Abomination first, then give it to your opponent, and then you blow them up. So that's kind of cool. So maybe this is better than I originally thought, right? I originally thought just Doomsayer combo, but because of Ticking Abomination, now the situation you have to be in kind of is have Ticking Abomination on the board already, and then you cast this, because I mean, what are you doing? You're gonna wait for 7 mana, and then you have to kill the full health Ticking Abomination. So you kind of have to order this correctly. Whereas with Doomsayer, you just play them both, right? It's possible that doing that interaction, right? I'm saying it's a role player, but it's possible doing that interaction just makes your deck worse. Like maybe it's technically a 0-star card, because doing this makes your deck worse than playing random other cards, but it is something to try. Alright, we're moving on. I think we're gonna get the first 5-star Warlock card, Despicable Dreadlord, 5 mana, 4/5. So decent stats already. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. It's not all minions, guys, it's just their minions. So this at the very least is like gonna act as a 5 mana 5/5, and at the very best it like clears off a bunch of minions, and just if it lives again, it does it again. Like, this is just a card. I think this is close enough to where it kind of looks like Blizzard is trying to push Warlock with something, right? Like, they know this is good, I think. So I think this is a 5-star card. I think you just put this into every single Warlock deck. Kind of like when Warlock got Imp Gang Boss, right away people were like, holy crap, Blizzard's trying to help Warlock out. Alright, we get it. So we'll play this. So yeah, I think you just put this into every deck. It's just too good not to. It even has the demon tag, like, for no reason. Like, Jesus, you can buff this up, and then every turn your opponent has to deal with this huge guy and a whirlwind at the end. It's like, wow. Because one way to fight a huge guy is to go wide on somebody, but if their guy whirlwinds every turn like a Baron-Geddon, you're in that awkward situation. So this is just super strong. Play 2 copies in your deck. Don't look back. If you can't play 2 copies of this in your deck, I don't think you play Warlock, right? Like, it's just that Imp Gang Boss level of card that you just always play this. I'm almost positive you just always play this. Alright, moving on. 3 mana, Unwilling Sacrifice. Choose a friendly minion, destroy it and a random enemy minion. So this is very much like a card in other CCGs, right? This card shows up all the time. Usually, however, it's a targeted thing in other card games. Usually you're able to target your own guy, target your opponent's guy, and get that free kill. Where this, it's random. So there are, of course, situations where this is going to be good. In Warlock, you know, you tend to play sort of fodder anyway, right? There's a lot of devour things going on. So, you know, something to think about. The random minion is not great, right? My instinct is that it's unplayable, but it's powerful, right? So I'm gonna say it's unplayable, but it could be easy. It could just as easily be a role player. At no point is it just good in your deck. Like, you need to design your deck around this. How Fiend, 3 mana 3/6. So you gotta pay attention to that. That's a big body on turn 3. Whenever this minion takes damage, discard a random card. Now that could be good, right? That could be what you want, to just keep discarding your hand. Yeah, you're Warlock, so you can refill at any point for 2 mana. Very hard to judge this card as well, right? Like, a 3 mana 3/6, it's gonna kill almost like 3 different things, right? Like maybe it kills, maybe 2 3/2s kill it, but you know, who plays 3/2s right now, right? 2 3s are more common. especially in mage and stuff like that. So yeah, this just seems, if you want to be discarding your hand as fast as possible, this guy goes right in. I don't see a reason to call it bad. At the very least, it is a role player. It obviously can't be a staple because you can't just put this in every deck. You need to be on the discard theme. So Blizzard is pushing the discard theme down our throats, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. We're going to try it out, see if it's any good. Alright, moving on to Warrior. Rot Face, 8 mana, 4/6 legendary. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a random legendary minion. Alright, so you need to set up a whirlwind ahead of time. You can't just play this and hope, right? Because it's not very big. It can easily die in one go to a removal or to even a creature. So what are you going to do? Well, I was talking about in the last video how bad you wanted Blood Razor. Now this is a real big reason to want Blood Razor, right? To get that sort of Death Spite effect in Standard. You play this, you attack with Death Razor, get the Whirlwind, you get a free legendary. So that alone interaction is something to pay attention to. Getting random legendaries for free is nothing to scoff at. This guy is very much playable. Now is he a 2-star versus a 3-star versus a 4-star? For him to be a 4-star, you sort of have to put all, like, it's sort of locked in at role player, but maybe it's such a good role player that it just ups the star count. So as I'm recording this, I haven't decided what stars to give him. I'm going to think about it a little bit, and then you're going to see what I ended up giving him on the screen here. But I'm going to think about this a little bit. Very cool card at the very least, right? Like, you could have turns where you just like get 2 or 3 legendaries, right? Because he doesn't cost 10, he costs 8. So on 10 mana, like, you can play actual Whirlwind, fire off the Blood Razor. Maybe you have another Whirlwind. There's not many, or Inner Rage. Inner Rage costs 0, so that's something to really think about. So this guy, I mean, he's a 1-up in your deck, so that's kind of awkward, right? You build your whole deck around him. When you get him, you go off like crazy. You make a bunch of legendaries in one turn. But then when you don't draw him, your deck is filled with a bunch of stuff. So maybe you need another sort of patron card. There is a card like Patron at 3 mana coming up. So I think actually I'm going to bump this guy up a little bit in rating, because I think we're going to see a lot of him. Moving on, we have the Valkyrie Soul Claimer. This can be sort of compared to the Imp Gang boss in that when it gets hit, it summons something. You get, instead of a 1/1, you get a 2/2. So generally the Imp Gang boss would get 2 or 3 activations and get 2 or 3 1/1s. This, however, if you get 2 or 3, you get better cards. So the more this gets hit, the better. However, the one attack is sort of a problem because you don't. The Imp Gang boss would trade into things and kill things. This is not going to kill much stuff. That's sort of the problem with it. But I think there's enough stats going on in this, for this to be very much a good card. All right, moving on. All right, so we're at neutrals now. There's some cool neutrals. 6 mana, Skulking Geist. Here we go. Battlecry. Destroy all 1-cost spells in both hands and decks. 6 mana, 4/6. So the stats aren't totally embarrassing. At least it has 6 health, so it's sort of fine in that regard. Not great, but fine. This is obviously targeted at Jade Idol, right? So it's gonna kill all the Jade Idols. The fact that it kills your stuff is important to think about too, right? You have to sort of build your deck around not requiring 1-cost spells. I think what will be the key with this is if it can discard stuff in people's hands. Just removing stuff from people's decks, I don't think is a good enough reason to play this. However, on 6 mana, if you play this and you get 2 or 3 cards out of their hand, that's insane. Like, this card does not exist in this game outside of this card. Alright, next card, Tomb Lurker. 5 mana, 5/3. Battlecry. Add a random death or minion that died this game to your hand. So a little bit of tempo loss to get a lot of value here. What's interesting to me about this guy is if you just play 2 of them, you play the first one, it dies. But then when you play the second one, you just can go forever, right? Like, you just keep getting the death rattle of the guy, and then you play it again. So that's kind of cool. Kind of like a cheaper Skeletal Knight. Is that the guy? What was the guy? Let me look it up real quick. Hearthstone Skeleton. It was like the Skeleton Knight, right? So this guy, let's look back at this guy here. He was 6 mana, 7/4, and we had a death rattle. Reveal a minion in each deck. If yours customer, return this to your hand. So it's kind of the same thing, but if you just play 2 of these, the first one just gets pooped away, unfortunately, right? But the second one, you go infinite. So that's kind of cool, actually, right? So that's something to think about. I don't know if you ever do this, but it's kind of cool. You're never really getting tempo, though. That's the problem, right? You play a 5 mana, 5/3, just kind of like whatever. Does your opponent really care if you do that every turn? Not really, probably. But something to think about. You play this in a deck with limited death rattles. The thing that comes to mind, of course, is Hunter and Shaman, right? White Eyes and High Mane are sort of the big death rattle-y things going on. Garen is always in the classic set, so that's something to think about. So there are things to sort of focus on with this. I don't think this is constructed playable. I don't even think it's a role player, just because of how big of a tempo loss playing a 5 mana 5/3 is. Who knows? Maybe Priest Quest wants this. I don't think they do, though. I don't think priests want this. They don't have the Priest Quest doesn't have a problem with finding enough death rattles. The Priest Quest, just with like all quest decks, it's that mulligan, right? You get 1 less card in your hand. That's the biggest problem with quest decks in general. 4 mana 2/2 rattling rascal. He is not a skeleton. Why doesn't this guy have a skeleton, right? Should have gave him a skeleton. I guess later on they can always just add skeleton to him. Alright, so summon a Battlecry. Summon a 5/5 skeleton. So 4 mana, you get 4 mana 7/7, guys. You gotta pay attention to that. However, when he dies, your opponent gets a 5/5, right? Interesting card. So it's kind of a neutral 4 mana 7/7, but not really, because they can easily just kill this guy and get a 5/5 to challenge your 5/5. You kind of have to figure out a way to silence him. One of the problems with him is, of course, all the death rattle synergy cards don't work well. Like if you play a card that's like you play N'Zoth, whoops, like he's terrible with N'Zoth, right? You don't get the Battlecry. You just get a 2/2 that summons your opponent 5/5 for your opponent. So that's kind of annoying, right? You should try it. You should try to figure it out. I'm gonna try to figure it out, of course, if I get him. All right. I don't know if I'll craft this guy to try it out, right? That's asking a little much, Blizzard, for me to craft rattling rascals to like try the silence deck out. But Bone Drake, 6 mana 6/5 dragon. So we get a neutral dragon here. Death rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. Very strong card. Yeah, we got dragon synergy, we got death rattle synergy, we got value, like super value, a random dragon. You can get Sindragosa, man. Holy crap, very good card. This is a 4-star card. Maybe it's a 5-star card. Holy crap! Do you just put this in every deck? Right? 6 mana 6/5. That's pretty damn good stats. Get a random dragon. Like people warp their decks around, you know, Historian and stuff like that. Interesting. I've decided it's definitely a 4-star. The hard part about 5-star neutrals is that with my rating system, it has to literally go in every deck. This is actually the first time I'm seeing this card, so I haven't, like, it must have came out this morning or something, or today, or yesterday night. So this is my first time looking at it. So I guess I'm gonna stay with 4-star. Like 5 stars, like Dr. Boom level. Not quite Dr. Boom level, right? But man, maybe you just put this in every deck. Add a random dragon to your hand. Dragons are all insane, right? So much value from this. If you're an aggressive deck, like maybe you just want this too on 6. Like you just play 1 copy of it on 6 in aggressive deck just to get some late game stuff going on. So I'm gonna say 4. I know this is at least a 4. It could be a 5. Like this could be everywhere. Sylvanas has left the format, so there's no sort of neutral 6 that just goes in every deck, and this is might be pretty close. Like you could play 2 of these, cast 1, you get a random Draconoid Operative, and you have the other one maybe in your hand, and then all of a sudden you're like doing Draconoid Operative things in a totally non-dragon class. Like holy crap. You can brick. I guess if you get like Deathwing, that's kind of a brick, but I mean Deathwing always has a use. I'm real close to giving this 5 stars, but I won't. I'll give it 4 stars because I can't tell you to put this in every deck, even though I might put it in every one of my decks. Alright, moving on. 5 mana, Corpse Raider, Battlecry, give a friendly minion death rattle, resummon this minion. So this is kind of a neutral ancestral spirit, so very, very cool, and actually very, very powerful. It doesn't take much for this to sort of be bonkers, right? I mean, just anything big, right? Like, it's just good. Yeah, this is gonna see a lot of play. Very cool card. Moving on, we got 4 mana, 2/3 taunt. Battlecry, summon a copy of this minion. So you get two. So you get fair. It's a neutral feral spirits for 4. Now, feral spirits technically cost 5. Of course, it comes out on turn 3. This seems very good, right? Like, this is the first time I'm seeing this card. My first inclination is that it's very, very good. The closest comparison is to the 4 mana 2/3 taunt Death Rattle, get a 2/2. But like, this gives you 2 taunts. It gives you the power and toughness right away on turn 4. If you just add up the power and toughness, you get 4/6 taunt. So yeah, this is very good. Very, very good card. I'm gonna say it's 4-star. I mean, but again, it might be something I just put in all of my decks just as a starting point, right? Because if I'm trying to do cool stuff, I'm trying to like hide behind things. This is gonna be really strong in certain decks. It's gonna be really strong in hand buff decks. It's gonna be really strong in evolve decks. Just with Flame Tongue and evolve alone, it's like kind of gross. In fact, if there was 4.5 stars in my rating, I give it 4.5 stars. But because it's neutral, I can't tell you to put this in every single deck. It gets 4 stars, but in some decks it's a 5-star. Alright, moving on. 4 mana 3/3 Pirate, Phantom Freebooter, Battlecry, gain stats equal to your weapons. Very strong card here. So even if you just have the Rogue hero power, this is a 4 mana 4/5 with the Pirate tag, not irrelevant. In Pirate Warrior, does this replace the Mortal Strikes, Heroic Strikes, stuff like that? I think it very much can. Anytime you have a pirate in that deck, you got to really pay attention because it matters, right? You get those free upgrades, you get those buffs from the Lord guy. Moving on, Happy Ghoul, 3 mana, cost 0 if your hero was healed this turn. So potential 0 mana 3/3. So already that is good. So any sort of deck with healing, obviously Priest is the obvious choice. If you get hit on turn 1, turn 2, you just hero power, you play this guy. That's pretty good. So definitely sees play. The question is, will it see play outside of Priest? It's hard to sort of judge. Lifesteal is a mechanic in the set, so you just have to hit a lifesteal, and then all of a sudden you have a 0 mana card, right? Paladin has the charge card, so already that's a pretty sweet little tempo play, right? Moving on, 3 mana Mindbreaker, 3 mana 2/5. Hero powers are disabled, so this is like Shaman's worst nightmare, right? It's a 3 mana 2/5, so it kills those totems. That in fact stops new totems from being made. So my inclination is this got created in development because of Shaman. I think the Doppelganger Evolve stuff, and now that we saw that new 4 mana card that works so well with Flame Tongue, works so well with Evolve, I think this is sort of the meta answer to Shaman in general, right? I think this card's quite strong. If you don't need your hero power, this is gonna see play everywhere, I think, because of how powerful it is versus Shaman, and even something like Control Warlock, right? Even though that's not very common right now, you know, getting rid of their life tap is very powerful. Even something like Warrior, right? Like Control Warrior, this is like a nightmare for them, right? They have to like use both sides of a Fiery War Axe on this before they can start armoring up. Like, this guy is just powerful, man. Very good card. It's a 4-star card because it's how good it is. Alright, moving on. 5 mana Sunborn Valkyrie, Battlecry, give adjacent minions 2 health. So it's a 5 mana 5/4. Give adjacent minions 2 health. So you put it in the middle, buff up 2 health. So it's kind of like a another Argent Defender. Is it better than Argent Defender? Well, it doesn't give taunt, and that was kind of a big deal. Not giving power is kind of a big deal, right? Not giving power is a big deal. Moving on, 3 mana Death Speaker, Battlecry, give a friendly minion immune to this turn. So it's kind of like a Divine Shield kind of thing at neutral. That's powerful. Now, is it a curve card? Well, it could be, right? Like you could do the Divine Shield kind of play, like Paladins can do in Arena. You kind of have to have a 3/2 versus their 3/2, or a 2/2 versus their 2/2, something like that. It can be very, very powerful, right? If you use this on the late game on a big minion, it's kind of like Divine Shield, right? So it's very powerful. Moving on, 2 mana, 2/1 Fallen Sun Cleric. The last card, I think, what can you do with this? Well, there's turn 1 Cleric. You get a 2/4 attacking on turn 2. That's quite powerful. So I was talking about there might be a Zoo Priest deck. This guy would sort of fit into that. Just, it works with Argent Squire as well. This works with Argent Squire quite well. You get a 2/2 Divine Shield attacking on turn 2. Paladin has another Argent Squire, so yeah. Build your own Shielded Minibot is back. Shielded Minibot is back in Standard, guys, because of the you can have 4 Argent Squires in your deck, and you can play these guys to build a Minibot on turn 2. Attacking on turn 2. Warlock, maybe this just fits right into Zoo Warlock because they have so many 1-drops. They have a couple 1/3s. 2/4 attacking on turn 2 is much better than a 1/3. So yeah, this seems like it's at the very least a role player. I might bump up the rating when I do the ratings. So that's it, guys. So the next time you see me do a review, it will be all the cards. The set comes out in a few days, so I think we're getting the release in a couple days here of all the cards. And then see me again if you want for the review. Thanks, guys, and I will see you next time. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, guys. I have links here for more content. And if you would like to see the channel grow, please click that subscribe button in the middle. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.